So in a world that's just flooded with information, how do you even know what's true anymore? Today, we're going to dive into a pretty amazing system for checking any claim by, well, building our very own detective agency right inside our heads.
The basic problem we're trying to solve here is actually pretty simple to say, but incredibly hard to do. When you read something that says it's based on data, how can you be sure? How do you get past that first gut reaction and actually figure out what's real?
It's a question we bump into every single day, right? You see a headline, a statistic, some argument that just sounds so convincing. It feels right, but is it actually built on anything solid? Well, this is where our investigation really begins.
Now, here's where this whole idea gets really interesting. It's not about a simple true or false stamp. Instead, imagine for any idea, you could call in a crack team of 8 specialist detectives. Each one has a totally unique skill, a specific job designed to stress test an idea from every possible angle.
So let's meet a few of the key players on this squad. We're not going to meet all 8 today, but just these 3 will give you a fantastic idea of how this system thinks, and more importantly, how you can start thinking this way too. Our first detective has a seriously memorable name, the Lady of the Airplanes, and her origin story is, hands down, one of my favorite examples of just brilliant, counterintuitive thinking. Okay, picture this. It's World War II. American planes are coming back from missions, and they're just riddled with bullet holes. The military wants to add more armor to the places that got hit the most, the wings, the tail. Makes sense, right? But then a mathematician named Abraham Wald steps in and says, hold on, you're looking at this all wrong. He pointed out they were only studying the planes that survived. The bullet holes they were seeing were in places a plane could get hit and still make it home. The truly weak spots were the places with no bullet holes at all, like the engine, because any plane hit there, well, it never came back. And that story perfectly captures what we now call survivorship bias. So, our first detective, she's an expert at spotting this. Her whole job is to ask one simple question. What am I not seeing here? What data is missing because it didn't make it? Because sometimes the most important evidence is the evidence that isn't there. All right, let's bring in our next detective. This guy runs on pure curiosity and a really healthy amount of skepticism. Let's meet Mr. What If instead. His entire purpose is to question that first obvious conclusion. Here's how he works. You look outside, the grass is wet. Your brain immediately says, it must have rained. But then he pops up and asks, yeah, but what if the sprinklers were on? Or what if it was just heavy morning dew? Or maybe the neighbor was washing their car? Before we can just accept that it rained, we have to at least consider the other reasonable explanations. Now, this little technique actually has a pretty fancy name. Monte Carlo reasoning. The name comes from the physicists on the Manhattan Project, who had to simulate thousands of possible scenarios. Our detective here does the same thing. If the same piece of evidence could fit 5 different stories, you can't just pick the first one and call it a day. And now for our last detective. And this one is maybe the most surprising of all. He feels a little weird at first because his job is actually to defend the very thing we're trying to investigate. Meet the defender. We've all heard of straw manning an argument, right? That's when you twist someone's point to make it weaker and easier to knock down. Well, the defender does the exact opposite. It's called steel manning. Before the team even starts to critique a claim, he steps in and makes it stronger. He'll find better evidence the author missed, shore up weak spots. He builds the best possible version of that argument, and only then does the team try to find a flaw. Why? Because if you can find a problem in the strongest version of an argument, then you know it's a real fundamental issue. So, we've met some of the team, but how do they actually work together? Well, it's not some chaotic free-for-all. It's a highly structured investigation that happens in 4 distinct waves. First up is the factual wave. This is just checking the receipts. Do the sources even say what the author claims they say? Then comes the logical wave. Okay, the facts might be right, but do the conclusions actually follow from them? The third wave is the epistemic wave. This is where detectives like the Lady of the Airplanes come in, hunting for hidden biases and self-deception. And finally, you have the control wave, where the defender steps back in to make sure the team's own critique was fair. And here's a crucial part. After this whole process, you don't just get a simple true or false. You get one of 4 much more useful outcomes. Verified means it's solid. False means it's definitely wrong. But then you have distorted, where the facts might be real, but the conclusion is twisted. And my favorite, unverifiable, which just means we can't prove this one way or the other. And that is a world of difference from saying something is false.
But this is where the system gets really, really cool. It's not just about giving you a final verdict. It's about showing you exactly how the engine is running in real time, and that's the transparency dashboard. So at the very top of any analysis, you'll see a string of text that looks, well, it looks like computer code, I know, but just think of it as the system's vital signs. It's a really radical commitment to being transparent, and you're actually meant to read it first. Let's just decode a couple of these really quick. That CCIF is basically a system check. Is everything plugged in and working right? SIM tells you if the logic passed an internal stress test. And pause tells you if the system has held its position or if it's moved because it found new, better evidence. It's a complete health check of the reasoning process itself. Honestly, calling it the airplane's black box is the perfect analogy. The dashboard is the flight recorder. You read it before you even look at the content, so you know what state the machinery is in. It's like a contract with you, the reader, that says, here's exactly how much you can trust what I'm about to tell you. Now, I know this all might sound super technical, like it's a system designed for a machine, but the real power here, the real takeaway, isn't just about some software. It's about the mental toolkit it gives every single one of us.
The lady of the airplanes, Mr. What If instead, the defender. These aren't just characters in a program. They are powerful mental models. They are ways of thinking that you can consciously decide to use. You can literally build this entire detective agency right inside your own mind to help you make sense of the world.
So, the next time you read an article or hear an argument that sounds really convincing, just pause for a second and ask yourself, which of these detectives do I need to call in right now? Are you going to be the one asking what's missing, the one who comes up with other explanations, or the one who tries to make an idea stronger before you challenge it? The choice is yours.